Hi everyone, welcome to our second UK Goddess Roundtable. So today we have Becky Parkes, we have Amenti the Awakener, we have Jen McCarty, the Cosmic Gypsy, and we have Tara Love Perry. So the five of us, we are all going to organically come together and have a conversation just like we did before. Everyone loved the last UK Goddess Roundtable we did. We all received so many positive comments from everyone. We're so pleased that that roundtable helped everybody, and we've had multiple requests, each of us, to do this again. So here we are. So before we touch into more of the ancient information regarding the UK and the energies of the UK, I feel that within the last 24 to 48 hours, amongst the spiritually awake individuals in the UK, and this is in Europe as well and in America, the whole face covering, face masks issue. As you all know, we have to wear face masks now in shops as of the 24th of this month, as in it's mandatory for us to do so, or so that's being presented as mandatory, not exactly full legislation. But I thought, as that is on so many people's minds, we don't necessarily need to discuss the laws behind it. There are many people out there already presenting videos like that. But really, I think the awake and aware individuals are asking, should they be wearing them? Many feel extreme resistance. I've had people write to me that are very, very angry and insulted and feel extremely controlled to be asked to wear a mask, cutting off their breath, the symbol of slavery and acquiescence, the whole sort of dark Illuminati ritual side of it. Other people feel that it's not such a big deal for 20 minutes whipping around a shop. And then you've got the spiritual individuals actually arguing, because I've seen some conversations where some are saying, well, you're not helping the cause because you're acquiescing. So you're part of the machine, the dark machine, the regime, and this is going to lead to more control, such as the vaccines and the chips and everything else. But there's a whole other viewpoint, which is trying to go along with the system to a point in order to survive. So we've got different states of being, different perspectives, different ways of thinking. And what about the spiritual significance of wearing a mask and the acquiescing to that dark control? Are there ways to mitigate this? What are we all going to do, us five? I think people might be interested in what we've decided to do. And what would you say about the whole mask wearing, the symbolism and everything connected to it? Tara, come to you first. What do you think?
Thank you, Magenta. And I feel complete empathy and compassion for all those different points of view. And I made a post about it yesterday and all hell just broke open. It was just bonkers. Personally, what I know is that what we resist persists. So anything we fight against, I'm engaging in a fight. And that's not my way of doing things. Because when I feel myself wanting to defend or attack or something, fight against something, I look inside of myself and I go, what's going on here? And I get curious and I have a conversation, a self-love conversation with me. And I listen to the trigger, the fear, the concern, whatever it is. And I really give myself a lot of validation and a lot of compassion and empathy as I listen to that voice inside of me. And then I ask to forgive and release whatever's really not the truth. And I ask myself to come into a place of absolute truth with myself. And I just give myself like unconditional self-love. So that's a whole thing that I work with. And ultimately, I think it is about our relationship with ourselves. I know it seems like it's a relationship about us versus them, or whatever the them is, whether it's seen or unseen, whether it's an unseen virus or whether it's an agenda, or whatever the them is. And there's lots of different thems that everybody's kind of fearful of and reacting to. But ultimately, it's ourselves that are in relationship with that. And how do we show up in relationship with ourselves? That's where I find the most benefit for people to come into their own power and to claim their own sovereignty. and not being as an act of rebellion or as an act of fighting or an act of like hiding or any of those things. And if that's happening, like listen to your reactions and really get clear, what is your truth? Protected, because you know me, Magenta, from my experience, unconditional love is the most powerful force in the universe. There is nothing more powerful. It's the light that dissolves all fears and dissolves all shadows. It's powerful, it's unconditional. So when I come into a place of unconditional love with whatever fears or triggers I've got going on, and I can come into that harmony and I can come into that state of absolute presence and sovereignty, I feel absolutely untouchable. That's how I feel. And I've approached many situations in my life like that. And that's how I help people dissolve all kinds of, entities or whatever. It's like, just get in your truth. So from that perspective, I'm prepared to also say, actually, thank you, but no thank you. Because for my health, for my well-being, for my sanity, I need to breathe without a mask because I will get claustrophobic and I will not feel good. And I believe also as a religious right, because we all have religious laws, and my religion is that breath is source, breath is God, breath is vital, breath is my lifeline, and without it, I don't exist. Therefore, I worship my breath, and it's really important to me. And I don't have to explain myself to anybody, but that's my spiritual belief. That's my religion. My religion is breath. And therefore, I believe you can even get a little card that says, I don't have to do this because of my religious belief, and I don't have to do this for health reasons. And maybe, I don't know the rest of that. Maybe a doctor has to sign it or whatever, but I don't go to doctors. But I will basically write a statement that says something to those effects, because I'm about to go traveling on an airplane to another country. And apparently I'm going to have to wear the mask on the plane. And I'm like, if somebody says you have to or you can't travel, my most important thing is that I travel. So I've already decided I'm going to get a little mask and I'm going to cut a slit where my mouth is and some nose holes where my nose is, and I'm going to breathe, god damn it. Because that's what's important, and that's how I feel. And it's a matter of our own sovereignty and our own relationship with ourselves, and not about anybody else.
Wow, Tara, what you're doing, your solution is so similar to mine, which I will come to. But Jen, what's your opinion on masks, and what should people do when they feel that they're acquiescing to the system by wearing one? Are there ways that they can get around it? I think everything Tara said was amazing. And as I said, my solution is so similar to hers. But what's your opinion, Jen?
So I've been doing quite a lot of research into the sort of like occult ritualism of masks. And what I've discovered down those rabbit holes of research is that masks are often used in occult ceremonies. And it's a way of disguising your sovereign identity. We're all born as sovereign beings, and we bow to God and God only. So when we put on a mask, it's an occult ritualistic symbol of like where we're sort of like putting our identity, we're taking our identity out of that sovereignty alignment, and we're putting it in a sort of like placeholder position of like, oh, who can claim that? Who can claim that new identity? And so within these rituals, a mask is seen as you acquiescing your sovereignty in order to be groomed by the occultist, by the ritual leader, that sovereign right. So that's just a little bit of the sort of like, the occult reasons why, to do with the whole mask thing. Now, that we don't know what is actually going on with the government right now. When I really, really tune in to my intuition, and as reflected back to me from my divine masculine, Liam's like, good, I'm glad. I'm like, why? Good. He's like, that's going to wake them up. That's going to wake them up. It's pushing everyone in a corner where they have to face the tyranny, the optics of tyranny that our government is perpetuating. And so we believe we've really sort of like tuned in, and we're like, this is going to wake up like the next wave of sleepers. That all those are like going along with the COVID narrative of like, oh yeah, you know, they're all suddenly just going to have a few like feathers are going to get ruffled. And so we believe that Boris is a white hat. We believe that the current UK government is working with the Trump administration and is working on a simulation narrative to wake up the sleeping masses. So the ritualistic occultist symbolism of it, do we want to speak about why we think that they are imposing this idea? So to me, the whole narrative, it just doesn't add up. Like the governmental narrative is that they're saying 2 + 2 is 5. 2 + 2 is 5, guys, and if you like go against that, like you're a conspiracy theorist. But 2 and 2 is 5. So we feel, we speak about it a lot, and we just feel that this is a white hat move. I will not be wearing a face mask, as I don't think any of us will be wearing a face mask. I will avoid shops. I'm happy to avoid shops. I'm happy to go back into lockdown. Like whatever. Like this is the silent war that is being played out now. All the deep state's being taken out. I'm happy to just go into lockdown. I'm happy to order my food online. I don't need shops. All I need is nature, and I need like food on my table, so I can order everything that I need online. Now, we've also been thinking about going on holiday, and I've been like, oh, well, I might have to. They might try to really, really impose it. And I like what Tara said, to definitely get that exemption card. But for me, I'm like, oh, I don't even want to get an exemption card, because I don't want to feed that narrative. I don't want to give it power. Like it's just a fantasy. Like it's just a fairy tale. It's not legislation. It's not law. Like how can you recommend? It doesn't make sense. How can you recommend a face mask 5 months into a pandemic? That's just like wearing a condom at the christening. Like it just doesn't make any sense, and people are going to be realizing, hold on a minute, 2 and 2 is 4. Like it is 4. I know the government's telling me it's 5, but it's 4. So yeah, we feel that it's going to be like really just activating this next wave of awakening, and I don't want to give it any energy. I'm just got my popcorn, I'm enjoying the show, and like hopefully praying for the next wave of sleepers to awaken.
Wow, thank you, Jen. That's fantastic. And I pretty much agree with every single word you said there, especially about the symbology of the masks and the whole ritualistic side of it. I'm not 100% sure about Boris's white hat status at this point. As we've discussed this before, I'm still going to place him as a grey hat. However, I pretty much agreed with every word you said, and that's so helpful. Thank you. Amenti, what do you think about this?
Greetings, everyone. It's very interesting because there's loads of different aspects to this that I can see. So when you do something unconsciously and through fear, that's when you're giving your power over to a situation. But when you can understand the principles that are involved in a situation and you make a conscious choice, then that's still moving in sovereignty. So as much as we can look at it and say a blanket statement like I'm going to resist, as Tara says, what you resist persists. What we have to understand is that to move into sovereignty means to make an informed choice or decision. Okay, so if people do feel like they want to go into environments which call for the use of masks, you have to be consciously aware of what it is that you're doing and make that decision to do that in a way that's going to allow you to still remain in sovereignty. So for example, if you know you want to go into a store and they require you to wear a mask, then you know that that's the stipulations of going into that space. You have 2 choices. You either wear the mask whilst you go in there, and when you come out, you release it, or you can choose to do some shopping another way. My thing is that when we start to resist and fight against things, it's not actually us being in our sovereignty, because the illusion is that no one can take away our choice. Everything is about choice. So you can either choose to partake or you choose not to partake. And because there is this collective consciousness of people being in fear, it's almost, it can almost be a bit disrespectful to just kind of be like to people, oh, well, you shouldn't do this. If you're giving people information that allows them to make an informed decision, then I think that that's more in alignment with fairness and balance. And the reason why I'm saying that is because for me, myself, as I said, last year, my ex-husband went through the same thing of, he had TB. So everybody in my family, everyone in my still band the whole community basically had to get tested, and they wanted us to wear masks, which I thought was very interesting. They wanted us to wear these masks. And some people wore the mask, some didn't. I was around him every single day. And the doctors at first were trying to tell me, you have to wear the mask. But when I showed them that it actually doesn't affect, it doesn't actually stop me from getting any viruses or infections, because I was taking that responsibility to do what was right for me, they didn't contest it. And then when they were wearing the mask, I told them to put eucalyptus oil on their mask, because it's their regulations to wear the mask in the hospitals, right? So how can you still raise that to a higher vibration so that it's not harming people? By putting eucalyptus on the mask when you're using it. So what happens is the eucalyptus helps you to breathe deeper, so you can still breathe, and it also kills any bacteria and kills any viruses. So for me, it's like you can always find the balance. You know, people are looking at traveling. I've been reading some of the things, some of the stipulations regarding travel. Some airports and some countries will want you to have a certificate that says that you have been COVID-19 tested. What are you going to do in that sense? You know, so you've got to figure out whether you're willing to make the choices that will get you to where it is that you want to go, because the resistance is just going to make it more difficult for you. So if you know that you want to make that trip, you've got to make a decision of whether you're willing to take that risk. And for those of us who are aware of what's taking place, it means no, not right now, you know, until you figure out the best way for you to be able to travel safely. Another thing for me is the mouth. A few things that came up. I remember where there was a lot of persecution against Muslim women for wearing burqas because of the fact that it covered their mouths and people weren't able to connect with them. So it's interesting that we persecuted one group of people for the fact that they covered themselves and separated themselves from everyone through the wearing of the mask, but now everybody's being encouraged to wear the mask. That was something that came up. Also, when I look at the word, right, the wordsmith is one of the Masonic practices that in a way isn't given as much credence as it's required, but is the most powerful. The word is what creates law. The word is what acknowledges sovereignty. The word is what gives you power. So in a way, suppressing people's mouths is in a way diminishing their power to express their true sovereignty, to express their true word. But at the same time, that is down to how you see your reality. If you see the mask as a way of suppressing you from speaking, then you will be suppressed. If you see a mask as a means to an end because you choose to go into that environment which requires you to wear the mask, then do you understand what I mean? So for me, it's not necessarily about going into any space of fear or even defiance. When you know exactly what it is that you want, right? And so for me, I don't necessarily wear them. I don't actually wear any masks, to be fair. My children don't wear them either, but we don't necessarily go into environments where we are required to wear a mask, because I also don't want to put myself in a position where I've got to be arguing with somebody or making people feel uncomfortable just because of the choices that I'm making. So, and also when you look at the trains, I think TfL, they actually do have an exemption. If you go on their website, you can get a pass and you can print it out, which basically exempts you from wearing masks. Now, when you look at the real science of it, it makes no sense. And that's for me where it's like, hang on a minute, it makes no sense. And the governments themselves put out a post about 2 weeks into the lockdown, and it's out there on the internet, where it says that the masks don't actually protect you from catching the infection anyway. So you've got to actually start making some real conscious decisions. Is it about the mask, or is it about we're dealing with truth? And if we're dealing with truth, then 1 and 1 doesn't make 2. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. So I feel like we have to start coming out of being triggered in any way possible, you know, because we can be triggered into resistance and we can also be triggered into submission. We have to make informed choices and decisions about what's right for us. And if there is an environment which requires us to do something that goes against our sovereign will, then why are we there? Because one of the rules of self-mastery is self-sovereignty. And it's understanding that I have a right to choose my way of being, and nobody has a right to violate those rights. But I also don't have the right to violate somebody else's right. So if somebody chooses to do that, even though they've been given as much information as possible, and that's the choice that they make, then I cannot force them to take on my perception, nor would I want to make them feel uncomfortable just because I'm pushing forth my agenda. So for me, I feel like it is about sovereignty. I feel like people need to be informed. Make sure that you're informed and that the decision that you're making is based on your own choice. If it's an element of compromise because you have to go into an environment, you decide whether that's an environment that you need to be in, and you take the precautions that are necessary. Because even with, you know, Tara talking about cutting holes in the mask, that's her way of, you know, not being resistant, but still trying to find a means to an end so she can get where she needs to get to. And I feel like if you just come in with like, I'm not doing it, da 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 da, then you're creating resistance for yourself, because you don't have to agree with any of the things that are put out. You don't have to. You have a choice. And so I believe that it's really just about making informed choices. And let's say if you are wearing masks, to all of our people who are choosing to do that, then just take precautions. Use eucalyptus oil so that it actually helps you to breathe better, so that you are actually killing bacteria and viruses. Do not wear it for long sustained periods of time, and just be aware of the symbolism of it, and be aware of what you're partaking in. And that's the real way that you can move through it. And that's just what I feel, just on a conscious level, that the more that we resist it, is the more that it's going to continue to persist. And that's exactly what they want. But sovereigns don't fight. When you're sovereign, you don't fight things, because you're the one that, you know, you decide what it is that you choose to live by and what laws you're governed by. So that's my feelings on it. You know, I'm not feeling this thing of defiance. I'm feeling a thing of choice. You know, we're moving into a space of choice. There are some people that want to exist in that reality. They've made a contract to live in that reality. You have to know for yourself whether it's something that you are agreeing to. And if it's not, then you make that declaration within yourself and you move from that space of divine sovereignty. But otherwise, you know, I think more than anything, our purpose is to help people to make informed choices, because people are very afraid. People are very scared. We've been awake. I mean, I know I've been awake all my life, but we've been going through our journey for some time. What I've realized is there are a lot of people who are so heavily dependent on media and the security that was presented in this false world, that even for you telling them don't wear the mask, they're like, oh, you know, it causes them so much anger and anxiety. Number one, I don't want to cause that in somebody. Number two, I don't want to have to fight against that. So even, okay, I was just in a minicab at the moment coming from the children's school, where again they're trying to force me to bring the children to school, but I've decided to now take them out legally, because that's what you can do. But he was wearing a mask and he asked me, oh, you know, can you wear a mask please, da, 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 da. And I just said to him, I mean, I personally don't wear a mask, so I'll happily open both of the windows and sit in the back. And I even had my own eucalyptus in my bag to give to him, you know. And I just explained my perception. I explained why scientifically and with common sense it doesn't make sense to me, and how that's not actually helping you. And he was able to say, do you know what, I understand what you're saying. And before you knew it, he took off his mask because he felt comfortable, because I wasn't sitting there just telling him, oh, you're stupid, don't use that. I actually gave him the information that allowed him to actually make a rational decision. And I think that that's so important in this time, because people are in fear, and it can be so easy to just tell people, oh, don't do that. But if you give them the information and the understanding and help them figure it out for themselves, then they can make informed choices. And I believe that that's what sovereignty is about. So yeah, that's my perspective on that.
Goodness, Amenti, that's fantastic. I literally agreed with every single word you said. I think, you know, as we're going through an ascension process, we go through that ascension process collectively. We're all going through the same thing, but our experiences are similar, but they're completely unique. And it is about being in the moment and navigating it, not as if it's me against this huge group, but me within this humanity. Like you said, you meet with the cab driver. That's your personal and unique meeting with him, and the reality that you went through with him, and how you're managing to plant seeds with him and change things. Regarding home education, I home educated my youngest too for pretty much 14-15 years, dealt with all the legal system with home education in the UK. So Amenti, if you ever need any advice about the legalities, you come to me, because at the time I studied the whole legal system in the UK for home education day in, day out till 2 in the morning. So I knew exactly what I was up against. And I ended up being an advisor for the home education movement. So I helped loads of other parents at the time. So I know that that's a huge thing now, and well done you for making the absolute right decision as far as I'm concerned for any child. That is
Definitely.
the right decision, unless you can find a school that is opting out of all of this. But yeah, I agreed with every word you said, and I'm very much thinking along the same lines. And Becky, what do you think about the whole mask thing?
Gosh, well, I loved what everyone said, and you know, I can resonate with every point of view. I really can. And Amenti's talking about informed choices. That this is one thing, you know, when I was an antenatal teacher working with couples going through the pregnancy and looking towards the birth of their baby and early parenting, I used to teach about informed choice and informed decision making. And the most important thing is actually doing the research to get the full information, and not just you know, listening to one or two points of view, or just the first thing bit of information that comes to hand. It's really doing the deeper research so that you can really intuit about how you feel about something and what choices you want to make on it. Regarding masks, I noticed on Facebook some of my friends, you know, sort of old village friends where I used to live, were putting out this statement that I'm going to wear a mask because it's my right to do this. I believe I'm helping other people. I cannot remember the words because I was looking at it and sort of feeling a sense of horror, because it wasn't even the truth. It's just a sense of self-righteousness that they're following the government guidelines because it's the right thing to do. I wanted to put something out on Facebook, and I got some information about these different types of masks, and I put it on Facebook and it blocked it immediately. So I wrote something else just to say, I didn't paraphrase it, I really compiled it just into a couple of sentences. But what I wanted to share about was the different types of masks. I mean, there's three main basic types of masks. There's the ones that have the little ventilation holes. So these are protect people who perhaps are mechanics working in places where the atmosphere around them is toxic because of the paint materials or so on. So they can keep the air inside the mask clean and filtered, and they can breathe out their own air, but don't breathe in the contaminants. Now that's fine if someone's going to be wearing that and they don't have coronavirus, but if they happen to have the virus and they're breathing it out happily to everyone else, that's not protecting everyone else. The main type of masks that there are the sort of the paper cheap ones that most people are wearing, and those just simply don't work, sadly, because there's too many gaps around unless you've got completely smooth seal, and then of course it doesn't cover your eyes, so that the virus could enter the eyes, if you know. So that doesn't work, and actually it's supposed to be used in a sterile atmosphere, and if you're wearing it out and about streets where there's pollutants just in general from the atmosphere, it clogs up very quickly. And if you don't actually have the spaces, then your body is struggling to breathe. It has a very quick buildup of carbon dioxide within it. It makes your heart work harder to try to make you breathe. Your oxygen saturation levels go down really quite quickly within 20 to 30 minutes. You're struggling. And I have a condition, and I had to go for a hospital appointment, and I had to wear a mask, and this was quite recently. And so I thought, well, this is the first time I'm going to wear a mask, and I'll see how it goes. As soon as I put it on, I really struggled with the whole claustrophobia, and I thought, I've got to do this, I've got to go in and do this. So I went into the hospital, and I met the people behind reception, and the lady behind reception, she'd been wearing her mask down there, then quickly put it over to talk. And then the bottom line is that for people who actually have to wear these things in their jobs for 8 hours or whatever, they're finding ways around doing this because it's simply not practical to be wearing a mask over your mouth and your nose for that length of time. And I've noticed these lovely, very pretty cotton masks that people are making. A lot of people are making their own masks, all these pretty cotton masks. And again, like I've said to other people, it's as effective as wearing a condom made out of wool, knitted out of wool, because the virus can easily go through the pores in the mask. So they look very pretty, and they're complying by the rules. but it won't actually protect anyone. So, you know, Simon's put a post out about why they're doing this and why they're sort of saying we've got to wear masks, and we can't have, they know another wave of the virus is coming. In fact, it's happening in pockets around the UK at the moment. I know Leicester's in lockdown, and I think it's Bradford in the north is also going into lockdown, and there's other places where the coronavirus levels are on the rise again, according to the stats. And I know that another wave is predicted for about mid-August and so on, and they can't put the whole of the country into lockdown again for economic reasons. So they're sort of coming around with ways of how they can do this, but they also know their mask doesn't actually work. So I'm just not sure. I actually think that the reality is that people are not going to be, you can't physically wear a mask for very long without it having negative effects on you. And this is going to become more and more apparent to the general population as they try to wear their masks for any length of time. And I think there's just going to be some sort of backlash. As Jen and Amenti said, people are going to wake up, and also people are just going to find a way around. So they're literally not wearing their mask because, like Tara said, put a slit in it, because you have to actually breathe. It's not practical. So that's my thoughts on it. You know what around what other people have said. I don't think I can add much more other than, I think, if I want to go into a shop and I have to wear a mask, then I will wear a mask, but I will just do it because I have to, in and out, and then come back. I think we've all got to find our way around it. I also think that, and this is something that I've, been thinking about a lot recently, because people who are wakening up, the people who are watching this podcast, the people who will watch what Simon talks about, and every one of us, we talk about our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences. This is just our own individual point of view. I'm not imposing my thoughts and points of view on other people. I will share my experiences and I'll share my thoughts, but I don't expect others to say, yes, I completely agree with you, but I also don't expect others to say, you're wrong. We get quite a lot of feedback from people who say, I don't agree with your point of view, I think it's dreadful, blah, 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 and then attack us verbally and personally. And that in itself isn't, it's not the actions of an awakened person. It's the actions of someone who's stating their own sovereignty, but perhaps they could sort of reflect on, instead of sort of shooting the messenger or vehemently disagreeing with someone, just think, oh, I disagree, that's their choice, that's their thoughts at this present time, mine are different. We are all going to have our own mechanisms of navigating through this difficult time. And it is a difficult time, it's unprecedented. All of us, everyone being forced to wear masks to go out in shops, it's quite bizarre.
Yes, thank you so much. I agree with everything, and that's giving everything really nicely from a medical point of view as well, because it's true, if you wear these masks for any length of time, unless you are in a hospital setting and you're a doctor or a nurse and you have to do that for your job, these are not good for your health, and it's detrimental, and they don't work regarding the viruses, everything you said. With me personally, I very much come from this same sort of philosophy as Tara and Amenti regarding resistance, and I've noticed a lot of people going into resistance, and whilst I agree with their perspective, when you go into resistance, you're working against that flow of abundance, that connection with source, the law of magnetic attraction. So as Amenti said, how do you move forward and make these choices, because they are individual choices? And Becky talks about attacks. Well, you're going to get attacks from the awakened individuals because you're not making the choice that they would make, which is to be in resistance. But you're also potentially going to be attacked from the individuals who are asleep for perhaps either not wearing a mask or trying to put holes in it or whatever it is that you're doing. But at the end of the day, we have to come into our own power, our own sovereignty and make that decision from self. So when it comes to the transport situation, legally, I don't know if this applies to the airlines, but with the UK Transport Association, that's, you know, all public transport, trains and buses, etc., and cabs, etc., they will accept an exemption card, and you do not have to give them any proof of your medical condition. So regarding the transport, you're kind of covered if you don't want to wear a mask, if you're happy to get an exemption card when you don't actually have an illness. However, there are ways that you could work with that within you. For example, if a mask is making you feel extremely angry or extremely anxious, then that in itself is potentially not a desirable reaction. So that's up to the individual to choose what is in integrity for them. Not sure about what the situation is with airlines. With me personally, I have a problem with airlines anyway, regardless of the mask, because in the UK, when we leave this country, we have to go through this electromagnetic scan. You're not allowed to have a pat down anymore. You can in the court system, you can ask for a pat down with a medical exemption letter, and you don't have to go through their electromagnetic scanning system, but you can't do that at the airport. I had to make a choice personally as to what was right for me, and I have decided I will not and cannot stay in alignment by going through an electromagnetic scan. Therefore, as long as those restrictions are in airports, I can't fly out of this country. It's not the same in other countries. In America, you can ask for a pat down, but that's not the case in the UK. I have looked into this. So there are lots and lots of other things, like, for example, these temperature guns. For me personally, will I allow somebody to take my temperature with an EMF temperature gun and point it at my pineal gland? The answer to that is absolutely no. So I will be boycotting any establishment that wants that. But regarding a mask, there are ways that you can, and it's not really about I mean, it is making a compromise, but some people see making a compromise as acquiescing. It isn't. Making a compromise is navigation, as far as I'm concerned, as Amenti was saying. So with me, I thought to myself, regarding masks, if the establishment wants you to wear a mask, I would decide whether I need to go in that establishment. Do I need to go in a shop? Can I shop online? Can I go to an outdoor market? My response is, the outdoor markets will be getting my custom, online shopping will be getting my custom above all else. But what if I'm in a situation where I have to actually go somewhere that wants a mask? And I was in this situation yesterday. I wanted to go and see someone who is a very creative person. She's a seamstress and she makes clothing and she makes handbags, and I wanted to go and see what she was making, and I wanted to make a purchase. It's all recycled, it's all organic. She makes handbags and crochets them herself, and it's all from recycled materials. That to me is a really honorable purchase. If I need an item, if I can try and get something recycled and eco and sustainable, I'll go there. However, her ruling was, you're coming into my business, you're coming into my establishment, you have to wear a mask. So I'm conflicted because I want to make this sustainable and energetically positive purchase, but I have to wear a mask to do it. So I did purchase what I thought might be a reasonable, little cotton mask. I also already had masks that a friend made me with sustainable 100% organic cotton. I was finding it difficult to breathe in those. So I ordered another one, which was smaller and thinner. And as soon as I put it on, I felt I couldn't breathe. And I felt completely out of alignment with this. Everything Amenti was saying, everything that Jen is saying regarding the symbology. Now, I found a way to deal with the symbology of it, as in, rather than acquiescing to that Illuminati ritual, there is a way that one can create a hermetic seal, which is your own personal spiritual truth. That stands for you within that bubble. Hate to use the term bubble, which the UK government are using, but bubble is a spiritual term to talk about our own hermetic seal, our own vortex, our own orb. So I'm going to continue to use that word. So what I found is to move into disguise, as in, I'm not acquiescing to the system. I'm not part of this ritual. I'm a light worker in disguise. I'm a starseed in disguise. And when I put this mask on my face, I'm moving into that hermetic seal. I'm in disguise. My eyes are down. that doesn't mean I'm acquiescing to anything. I am still very much standing strong within my sovereignty, but I'm not going to move into resistance. And then when I come out of that establishment, I take the mask off, I take a deep breath, and I allow my body to move into more sovereignty, more freedom, more breath than ever before. So I use the mask as a stepping stone to even more sovereignty, even more growth. So you turn it around. However, even with that, which I think is very, very helpful for many people, even within that, on a logistic, sort of physical level, I still felt like I couldn't breathe. So I thought, what can I do? Now, you'll probably notice I've got all these hanging up. These are my scarves that I wear in the winter. So I was coming for a clear out the other day, and I thought, what can I do with these? Every year I shove them in a black bin liner, shove them in the spare room. They take up so much space. Or I could buy one of those underbed storage bags, which I've got all my, you know, winter tops in. And I looked at my curtains and I thought, I wonder. So I hung them all up, all across my bedroom. So, and it looks amazing. I've got a real hippie boudoir here. It looks great. So I'm just thinking about what to do, and I'm looking at all my scarves, and suddenly I spotted this one scarf. I'm just going to show you. So this is so similar to Tara, what you're doing. You're talking about putting a little hole in there discreetly. So this scarf, if you look at it, it's, I mean, you may not be able to tell, but it's incredibly thin and porous and full of tiny little holes. If I double it up, you can't really see from far away the holes. It looks like it's a piece of turquoise fabric. If I put that over my face, I can fully breathe. Also, it's not a mask. It's not a mask. It's
Exactly.
a scarf. So it's completely different. It's, yes, you're covering your face, but you're not stopping breathing when you can breathe through it. So I'm going to give this a try if I do need to, and obviously I wore this yesterday and I was able to complete my eco purchase and still breathe without any problems. Obviously, I mean, are you going to go into a shop and is someone going to come up to me and say, sorry, that's not correct face covering, please leave, or please put on a mask? You're not going to be fined because you've tried your best. I could just, oh gosh, really? I thought this would be fine. You know, I didn't know that this wouldn't protect me, or whatever disguise you want to put on. So this is my way of navigating it. And I think that's what's important. I'm not saying everybody go out and get a thin scarf with holes in. I'm saying, how can you navigate this? If it's so important to you that you don't wear a mask, that you won't compromise whatsoever on any level, as I will not do with the EMF guns, and I will not do that with Maxines, and I will not do that with these scans. I won't make that compromise because that's me. I have reasons physically and spiritually why I cannot do that. But I can navigate the mask thing, and I found a way to do that. But if you feel you absolutely can't, creating a hermetic seal, going into disguise isn't for you, then I would say, listen to what Amenti said, listen to what Tara said, because the question I would ask you is, are you in resistance? If you are, then you're not going to be working with the law of attraction and drawing to you what you need to be in sovereignty and liberty. But if you feel you're not in resistance, it is genuinely something that you won't compromise on for multiple reasons, then you are in a situation where you have other choices, which is to get a medical exemption certificate. You can get them in the UK. There is a company online called Horizon. You can actually order the medical exemption certificate along with a, you know, the sort of lanyard that you can wear around your neck. Now, these are being accepted with the Transport Association, but regarding the shops, it is up to the establishment, because it's not just about it being law and them following law. It's about the door policy for their establishment. So if they're saying, no, we don't accept your exemption certificate, then you have to follow those rules, because it's their establishment. It's like saying, you know, you can't come into my house unless you are wearing a black coat or a you know, a silver pair of glasses or whatever. That's my rule. So you have to follow that door policy. The 9 have said to me, though, that what we are creating right now is the very beginning of the new Earth reality, the Gaia 5D reality, and that there are many establishments, cafes, restaurants, and shops that are owned by awake and aware individuals. So they are going to be navigating their reality. So they're going to be advertising cafes and shops. Maybe that they'll sell things outdoors. Maybe they won't follow the policy. Maybe they'll find loopholes. So we're going to find each other. We're creating a new Earth system out there in America, out there in Europe, all the other countries, and here in the UK. We are creating this new Earth system. So together, as we go forward, I think that we are going to gather together and tell one another, this particular restaurant isn't taking details, isn't taking your temperature. You don't have to wear a mask in this particular shop, whatever. We will compile a list of the awake and aware individuals. We will, even if we don't give that out publicly, we'll find this for ourselves. And the beauty of this is when we go to these places, because we will feel called to go to these places and to give these places our custom, because they're the ones that are within the same reality as us, we're going to find one another when we go there, because that's where all the awake and aware individuals are going to gather. So that's the positive flip to this. Again, the mask wearing is to shut us down. And yet what happens? The great gathering starts to come together even more than before. So there are multiple perspectives with this. Yes, Becky.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, we can't wear masks when we're eating and drinking, and establishments like restaurants and cafes and so on are just starting to open up again, and people are starting to go out and socialize again. And you know, that's especially outside, but also inside. And so you can't wear a mask in those establishments. So people are really going to wake up and see that just wearing a mask in shops is not, you know, what are they going to do in swimming pools? Swimming pools are opening. Do they have to wear a mask in the changing rooms and then take the mask off as they jump in the pool? There's so many different legislation elements that they have to sort of go through the fine-tooth comb, and just people are going to see that it's ridiculous, that it is very silly, and those that try and wear masks for any length of time are going to see that they're going to get very, very uncomfortable, because they're just not comfortable items to wear.
And some establishments are actually restaurant, cafes and shops all in one. You've got places that have little tables and they're selling things as well. So are they a shop? Are they a cafe? What rule do they fall under? You can't wear a mask in there, as you say, if you order a cup of tea. There are places that have little gift shops right next to the cafe. So yes, there's going to have to be different rules for different establishments. And as I said, we are going to find those places that are in alignment with us and make these choices. Amenti, did you want to say anything? And did anyone else want to discuss the mask topic before I move on to the next subject, next question or whatever? Amenti.
Give thanks. There were a few things that came to mind, because really it's all about choice. And when we're moving into 5D consciousness, it's all about choice. So what you said about, you know, people who now have awakened shops or awakened people who have a shops and things like that we can go to, that's all part of this split that you can see happening, you know, this split that's taking place. But there's a few things that came to mind as well, because when we think about what's law, they can't actually force you to wear a mask. There is no law that says that they can do that, number one. There is no law that says that they can fine you for wearing a mask in a shop. That's a guideline that you have to agree to. So this is all about people who are willing to do the research to actually break the hold that so-called cabal has on people's lives. Because when you stop, it's almost as if spirit is saying, we're going to squeeze you so much until you decide, you know what, I've had enough. And when you've had enough, you'll be willing to do the research to release yourself from the illusion that there is some overlord that has control over your being. And I think that that's what it's about. It's about getting people to the point where they actually start using common sense. I mean, I've been in places like the supermarket, and you're queuing up to get in before. Everyone's standing 2 meters away from each other. And as soon as you get through the door, everyone's bumping into each other. Everyone's so close. It makes no sense. And I think that that's what's happening. People are actually starting to see, but because they don't know the law, because they feel like the law has a right to enforce these things on them. That's when they're in conflict. So I really encourage people to start reading the law. Like even in my membership, I'm teaching people about sovereign law, about maritime law, about the actual jurisdictions and things, so that you are aware that you cannot be entrapped by this falseness. They don't have that power. And when you realize they don't have the power, then you learn how to maneuver within the system in a way that allows you to still be sovereign, right? Another thing that came up for me is when they talk about this second wave, I believe that they've planted that in the consciousness of people by even saying that it's going to happen. And obviously, if you're taking people and putting them outside after you've told them to go inside, which is obviously going to lower their immune system, now you're sending them outside while they're already fearful and stressed, right? With masks so they can't breathe. They're actually creating the environment for the illness to happen. And so people have to start taking responsibility and doing the maths, because you're actually making yourself more vulnerable to catching this so-called condition. And you know, not even just the condition, because don't forget, they only define you as having COVID. Like if you go to the hospital, they're going to say that you've got COVID even if you had the flu, right? So in a way, you're creating the illness in your body, a illness, a imbalance, because obviously you're doing things to your body that are going to lower your immune system. And then once you go to the doctors to ask for help, boom, they're going to tell you that you've had COVID. Whereas that's actually not what's happening. Your body is actually being depleted because of the environment, the stress, and the marks. So again, people need to be mindful of what's really taking place. Rebecca spoke about certain places in the UK that are being locked down. And I noticed that she said Bradford. When she said Bradford, what came to my mind is that what they're trying to do is to lock down the poor areas, or the areas where people don't seem to have a lot of work or finances, where they're not dependent on creating wealth from those places. They can lock down those places and control and dominate those people, because they're also the people that are more susceptible to things like stress and illness because of their living conditions. The last thing that I wanted to share is that when we look at the astrology of this time, the North Node and the South Node has shifted. So we're in North Node in Gemini and South Node in Sagittarius. The North Node in Gemini helps us to understand as well that this is not the time for long journeys. It's not the time for doing too many long haul flights. It's just naturally not the time. It is all about small communities. This is about local travel. So we have to be conscious about whether the choices that we want to make in terms of our travel are for our highest good, because it's only an 18-month period until the nodes shift back and we will be able to travel freely. So it's about really thinking about, do I need to travel physically? Is this something I can do astrally? Is this something I can do online? So that you can ground your energies wherever it is that you are and feel safe, but still expand your consciousness and still do the work that you need to do. But astrologically, this is not the time for us to do long journeys. This is the time for us to be traveling in short groups, short trips, and moving into that vibration. So those are the kind of things that I just wanted to add to just bring a little bit more context to it. But really, I just want to say to people, sovereignty is a choice. It's not something that's given to you, because we choose to be asleep by staying asleep. We choose to be asleep by arguing against evidence. And a lot of people want to argue against what conspiracy theorists say, even what light workers say. But the ultimate thing is, if you don't do the research yourself, you're never going to know. And you're always going to be in a space of not knowing. And this is not the time to be in belief. This is the time to be in knowing. And that is going to require you to do some research. People are afraid of research, but knowledge is power, and it always has been. So I just want people to now start taking responsibility for asking the right questions, doing the right research, and also using the common sense. Does this make sense? Does this make sense to me? And if it doesn't, then choose not to subscribe to that. But don't allow the fear or the illusion of fear. And for me, illusion is ill use of vision. If you cannot see the truth, if you're not choosing to look at it, then you will buy into the illusion. And that will put you in a place of fear, and fear makes you give over your rights. No one can come and tell you that you have to pay £60 because you choose not to wear a mask. You agree to it by acknowledging that they have power over you, but really they cannot do that. But you have to make the right choices. So that's what I wanted to share.
So well said, Amenti, so well said. Regarding the second wave, I agree with you. I think that that's been planted in our consciousness. I spoke to my GP a few days ago, and he was telling me how, you know, there is a second wave that is highly likely. So this is in the medical profession. But I also feel it's part of the plan, that they want to engineer a second wave. And it is up to us to stay sovereign and move with those powerful energies that we can create as a starseed community to affect the physical reality, to prevent, because I see many spokes put in the wheel of the dark plan. So there may not be a second wave. There'll certainly be an attempt for one. And if there is, you know, we know that eventually we're moving into a situation where we come into this freedom. We're not quite sure how this interim period will play out, but yes, I think the second wave is engineered. Thank you so much for the astrological perspective as well, which I'm not very au fait on at all. However, it fits the energies of wanting to stay. I mean, even sort of driving, you know, an hour or two away from home, I'm feeling is it just about fits, but it is about the smaller community. It is about the smaller space right now. That's the energy that I feel. So the astrology, that was really helpful to put that perspective in. Shall I move on to the next question I have here? Or does anyone want to say anything more about masks? Jen, yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to just to talk about like this whole idea of the COVID narrative, because I think that like for many of us that are awakened, you know, it doesn't seem to add up. It seems to be a something that's contrived. That's not to say that there's no virus. I mean, of course, there's definitely a virus, but it's a virus with 99.9% recovery rate, and it seems to have been bioengineered in a factory in Wuhan by the globalists. And so I think there's just so much of this kind of like assuming that it's a real thing. And I don't want to be part of a conversation which is feeding that narrative, because I see it as 100% contrived. And so, but it gets complicated because there's a 5D narrative, which I believe the white hats are in control. They've had the looking glass technology. They saw that the deep state had this COVID planned out, and then they decided then to use, like, to go with it, to use that narrative, use that idea, or use that sort of like outbreak or whatever in order to do the rescue mission for the children, to wake up the next wave of sleepers. So I get a little bit like, oh God, it's a bit awkward, because like I'm not on that bandwagon of assuming it's a real thing. And so I think that all of the props that they're associating and identifying with COVID are tools of manipulation and control. And I see that the masks are very, very much tools of manipulation and control. And I was reminded of something very, very interesting. I read the most fascinating article, and I will post it on this thread, this chat thread, Magenta. But it's like, we have to look at it from the 5D level. I think the white hats are in control. I think they're in control of the narrative. From the 4D level, I think that there's a little bit of some deep state players that are still like using this time to like try and get as much sort of like control of humanity as possible. And so I just like to address those 4D controllers and kind of like what I've observed within that. And I'm just going to read what I found. So it says, you might want to think about those dozens of online videos showing fully masked hospital nurses and hospital workers participating in elaborately choreographed TikTok dance videos, while simultaneously thousands of hapless coronavirus victims are supposedly dying deaths and being stacked up in those same hospitals. And then it says, Revelations, and I looked and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. But then what they say is, Psalms 137, by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down and wept. And so what they're referring to is that by adding dance to the mask wearing, the new slaves show their willingness to entertain their captors. I think this is a really, really huge point, to become little more than flesh play sports to them. So I think that when we go along with this idea of working with these props, unless we are fully awakened and claiming our sovereignty and doing what you said, Magenta, using it as a sort of ploy to activate the hermetic seal, if we are blindly using these props, I believe that we we are tickling the little Satanists, we are making their day, and we just need to decide, is that what you want to do? Like, and it comes up with the issue of resistance. So being awake doesn't mean that I'm resistant. It just means that my eyes are just so open. They're just like got like you know, matchsticks, like, you know, holding my eyes open. I just see so clearly. That's not being resistant. It's just seeing really, really clearly, and it's making an informed choice. And I don't want to play that game. I don't want to tickle the little captives. I don't want to give them any energy. I'm God's daughter. I am a sovereign being. I'm a queen of consciousness, and I will stay like that forever and a day. And that's my own personal sovereign choice. So yeah, I just wanted to add that bit in, because I think it's really, really important that, and if anyone that's listening that is blindly going along with this narrative, might be a little bit of time to do a bit of research and just to find out really, really what is going on. And because the government have said 2 + 2 is 5, it doesn't. 2 + 2 will always be 4. And you're not mad, you're not deluded for seeing that clearly. And so yeah, that I just wanted to share that.
No, thank you, Jen. I think, you know, the corruption, the dark plan, it runs very, very deep. It's multifaceted, and there are many people who don't fully understand, you know, how deep it is. And I think, you know, regarding the resistance thing, it's to do with our own intention. 2 people could actually make the same action, and one's in resistance and one is not, because it's what's within. So thank you. You make some really good points. Shall I move on to the next topic? So what I did was I found a few questions or comments from our last UK Goddess chat. And so what I've got here is somebody asked, they said that they were very happy about everything we were talking about, the history in the United Kingdom and the history within the sort of infrastructure within the United Kingdom. And what they asked is, what are some of the things to do or say to clear your possible history, so that you can clear some of the things that could have been done in the past in the United Kingdom? So I think what they're talking about here is global clearing, you know, for the UK rather than individual clearing. Is there anything that can be done or said to clear these energies from the past as we go forward? So we'd be shifting a timeline. Tara, got any comments on?
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads of things to say on that one, and this is the stuff that I teach and write about all day long, right? And Jen and Magenta and all of you ladies, I do always bring everything back to self, because, and you know, just kind of connecting with what you were saying then, Jen, I completely agree with you. We create our reality. And there's a whole swathe of people following the law of attraction and agreeing with it. And then on the other hand, being completely manipulated or completely, I don't know, but in a state of belief that there are rules and they have to abide by those rules. And then there's this idea of, well, how do I get around the rules or avoid the rules? It's like, are you agreeing that those rules are real for a start? Like, and do they impact you? So we're talking about empowerment here. We're talking about really that responsibility that we have, whether we like it or not, whether we take responsibility or not, we are each creating our own reality. And if you say, but Tara, I'm not creating my own reality because I didn't create coronavirus and I didn't create the thing that I have to wear a mask. Well, I would say to you, are you going to go along with somebody else's creation that there is such a thing and that you have to do such a thing? Because what's your truth? What's your reality? And like you, Jen, my reality is I've checked again and again and again. For me, there is no such thing as that illness. It does not exist. Right? As far as I'm concerned. And I'm not going in naively, I'm not going in with resistance or being conspiracy. That's just my reality. What people are reacting to is a whole bunch of other things. I believe absolutely that there was a thing that was created in a lab. Did it get to us? I don't believe it did. Was there a virus going around way back in December and January that affected the lungs and made it hard to breathe? Yes, because half of Brighton had it, more than half. I had it for 3 weeks and it was quite hard to get over. 1st of January, I got it. And it was like having liquid on the lungs. It was really uncomfortable. It was really horrible. And my lungs have not been as strong since. And that's why I focus on how important it is to breathe and how important it is to actually come to my own relationship with myself with unconditional self-love, and my reality therefore is love. And so there are no other rules in my reality. And it's really important for us to go, there's a responsibility, and I'm getting to the words part in a sec, because first of all, you have to have that awareness. What reality am I creating? And you know the reality you're creating by what you believe, by what you feel, and by the actions you're taking. That's a very clear indication of what reality you're in. And we're all having a different experience, like we're all in our own bubble. Everybody's having a different experience in their own bubble of reality, deciding what's the rules that they're playing by and what they're not, and what's real and what isn't. And this is really classic 4th dimensional initiation. Right? As you go from 3rd dimension into 5th dimension, you have to pass through the 4th dimensional vortex, which is understanding that you create your reality. And if you're afraid, you will attract that which you're afraid of. And if you're going to abide by one rule that says, okay, I'm going to go and wear the mask because I believe I'm saving lives and I believe I'm blah, whatever, then the next thing you know, you're going to have a needle in your arm because it's saving lives, and you're going to go with the next thing and the next thing. And it's like, well, where does it stop? And I feel like they're all props, like you said, Jen. It's a prop. Oh, they've taken that prop. Let's see if they take the next one. So I would just be really aware of at what level are you going to go along with rules that you didn't create, for a start. So coming back to that responsibility, I take responsibility for my own reality. I am in my sovereignty. I am in my truth. And somebody was asking me the same question the other day, Jen, as well. It's about commanding from a place of unconditional love. So whereas commanding might have been understood to be somewhat of an authoritarian, where somebody commands us into submission or commands us to do something against our will, and therefore we have to. There's a force of command that I use that comes from that place. You could say a command of God, or a command of the truth, or a command of unconditional love. And as I stand, and I have to get clear with myself first, obviously, clearing my fears. And I use the I Love You Me method that was given to me by Archangel Michael. Clears the conditions, clears ancestral conditioning, clears past life conditioning, clears everything. And it also, by the way, engages you more deeply with your inner senses and switches you on. It switches you on your consciousness and enables you to engage more powerfully with your extrasensory awareness and inner senses. So having got to this place of, right, I am choosing to come from a place of self-love, self-empowerment, the absolute truth, or God, or Christ, or whatever, Mother Nature, whatever feels right for you. You can say, by the power of absolute love, for example, I now command myself into alignment with divine law or sovereign law. And I choose that everything in my reality is in harmony with that vibration. I choose to align myself with others of that place. And I use this a lot, by the power of absolute love, I choose to come home to the truth, and I choose all others in my reality to come home to their place of absolute unconditional love too, and their highest truth. Now, unconditional love and highest truth is a really good kind of, umbrella. It covers a lot of things. And also, in times when I've been, say, working with very dark energies in other people, or in spaces, or even in my own self, in my own soul journey, in my own history, I've come across some very seemingly dark, nasty energies, devilish, and Illuminati, even I've cleared, and Illuminati influence or reptilian influence or whatever in my clients. And literally what I say to that dark energy is, first of all, I acknowledge that they're dark, and I say, you know what, I'm really sorry that you are having an experience of being dark and full of fear and evil, and I'm perceiving that. I'm really witnessing it. I'm so sorry. And I'm not sorry because I'm apologizing. I'm sorry because I'm seeing an energy that is out of alignment with the source of which it is. It's come into a place of apparent separation. Nothing is actually separate. It's all source energy. But it appears to have become separate, lost its true identity, lost its true source, lost its true nature, which is unconditional love, and is therefore showing up as something very dark, very, potentially scary, potentially very powerful, like a dark, evil, nasty force. And I recognize it, and I say, I'm so sorry that you're having this experience. Please forgive me that you think you're scary, and that you think you need to get power, or you think you need to harm this person. And it's a bit like, if you've ever seen what's it called, The Wizard of Oz, and there's the Wicked Witch of the West, and at the end of the movie, Dorothy chucks a bucket of water over the Wicked Witch of the West, and she just disintegrates, and all that's left is her cloak and her hat and her shoes. Well, saying these words to anything dark literally has that effect, because you're not reacting in fear. You're just saying, I see you. I'm so sorry you're out of alignment with the truth. Please forgive me that you're having that experience. I love you. Right? By the power of unconditional love, that I am. I love you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to see you, and please come home to the truth that you are. And it literally will transform. And sometimes you have to ask 3 times, because 3 just is a magic number. If anybody works with energy or magic, you know this. And you can say to something, I command you from the power of absolute love that I am, or source, or whatever, to come home, or to recognize, or to speak your truth. I command you to speak your truth by the power of absolute love. And it is a law in the universe, according to my experience, that everything must reveal its truth when you command it so. It must. Especially when you do it 3 times, and it might kind of wince at the beginning and go, no, be scared, back off. I've had very dark energies just go, back off, little girl. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that you think I'm scared of you. Please forgive me. I love you. Come home to the truth. I command you to tell me the truth. And it goes, like that. And then command it again. And you get, it's a bit like, as well, in The Wizard of Oz, you've got the big booming wizard's head with the fire and the smoke going off, and they're all trembling, and then Toto the little dog finds the curtain and he tugs back the curtain, and you've got the little old man turning the handle, making this big apparition appear that seems scary and dominating and all powerful, but really it's just some little old guy that's actually really insecure about himself and doesn't think he's all that, and like he's having a not enough complex. And so and actually, he just needed some friends. At the end of the day, he just needed to feel loved and that he was valued, and that's really what was in the Wizard of Oz story. So when you command something into its truth, the masks, interestingly enough, fall off. Yeah. All disguises fall off, even shadows fall off, and what you'll generally see is a little inner child in somebody, a little frail, vulnerable person that just doesn't feel loved, and that's generally what's the heart. That's been my experience across the board of what's at the heart of everything. So attacking, I don't think anybody can call themselves awake and righteously, justifiably attack any other human being, or have to need them to agree to their way of seeing things and the way of doing things. Like, that's just being a control freak. That's being a Nazi. Who wants, who can call themselves awake and do that to another human? We all have free will, and we should honor, I believe, one another's free will, and lead with love. And if you're not leading with love, like, check yourself, like, go and check your own shoes for that nasty whiff you can smell. Stop pointing at everybody else, and let's just take responsibility for our own power, for our own choices, for our own reality that we're creating, And like you said, you know, it's very wonderful when you see other people not wearing masks, because you're like, yay, are you hugging? I'm hugging, yay. And it makes it very, very clear. You know, it's very, very easy and wonderful. So
thank you, Tara. Perfect response. And I love the Wizards of Oz analogy. Use that an awful lot. And yeah, that was, I think that's kind of covered the response to that question, to be honest. So I know, I mean, I'm not sure if you had anything to say, Amenti. I know before we started recording, and I'll come to Jen, I know that you said you had picked up some downloads, you'd had downloads since we last spoke that were somewhat connected to what we were talking about last session. Jen, did you want to respond to that or anything Tara said, and then we'll go through?
Well, I just wanted to say that, like, my approach has been, like, you know, like when I went to Australia for the first time with my son, because his dad moved there, I felt so compelled, like I didn't plan it, but as soon as my feet touched that land, what's that? Oh, sorry, that's my son cooking. So I felt this incredible feeling that I needed to say sorry for what my ancestors had done. And so me and Finn, we just went into the ocean and, like, we did a ceremony, and we just said, on behalf of all of our ancestors, like, we are so sorry for all of the land that was stolen, for all of the atrocities that happened, and we gave an offering to the water. And the same thing happened when I went to America as well. And it wasn't planned, it wasn't contrived, like, it was just like, and as soon as I got to the land, I felt like the trauma, because I'm so empathic. I was like, everyone's like, oh, Australia's amazing. And I got there and I was like, oh my God, I just feel this incredible rape energy of that land, and I just couldn't settle. And so it just inspired me to do many ceremonies, particularly with the water. So I think I just wanted to share that, because that's my way of dealing with the atrocities that English people have done, like, historically. And it's not from a righteous place, and I don't think anyone should do that. It's just naturally what I did. And I wanted to share that. And also I just wanted to say, like, going back to your question, Magenta, about, you know, how do we clear these energies? I think it's really important that we, like, working with Ho'oponopono, like, so understanding, being of the consciousness that there is no separation. Separation is an illusory concept of the third dimension. All that exists is unity. All that exists is oneness. And so when we're sort of, like, programmed and manipulated to believe that there's us and them, and she did that and he did that and he's a da, 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 then we're just feeding that matrix. But if we go in there with that vibration of the Ho'oponopono, of understanding that we are all part of that, there's nothing separate in creation, and that if those atrocities happened, there is cells in us that are part of the creation of that atrocity. And so I work with the Ho'oponopono, and I think that is, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I would say please forgive me as well, thank you, I love you. And so that's a really powerful way of neutralizing this energy that we spoke about. But the final thing I'd like to say is that for myself, it's been about breaking free of the illusion, breaking free of dualistic consciousness, and stabilizing in unity consciousness. And as one who is stabilized in unity consciousness, that is the trump vibration in this dimensional plane. And so one person that stands stable in 5D or unity or God consciousness, whatever you want to call it, then our aura then permeates such cohesion that it neutralizes all of the confusion from duality. So I would say, if you want to be part of the solution of cleaning up the atrocities that have taken place historically, then work on your own vibration, work on attaining 5D consciousness, unity consciousness, God consciousness, work on identifying your programs, your false matrix programs, and just like a gardener, just pull them out at their roots and allow yourself to be empty. That's how we stay in 5D consciousness, but we stay empty. Just like all instruments are empty, a guitar's empty, a drum is empty, a flute is empty. We must all be empty so that we can be channels and conduits of the divine energy. And that was our agreement that we made with Mother, Father, God. And I just think that is the most powerful way to shift the paradigm.
So well said, Jen. Thank you. And of course, that emptiness is 0 point. That's what you're talking about. You know, that 0 point. So yeah, really, really helpful. Fantastic. Thank you. Amenti, did you want to discuss that question and in relation to the downloads you've received?
Okay, yes, give thanks. And thank you, Jen and Tara. I really resonated with the things that you were saying. And what I wanted to add to it is that any kind of negativity, so-called illusion of negativity, is only there as a reflection to help you to grow. It's there to help us bring understanding to all of the energies that are available on this planet, and also some of the things that have taken place in the past that have suppressed our sovereignty, our divinity. So when it comes to how you can be a part of it, it's about dealing with your own stuff. It's about dealing with your own prejudices, your own darkness, and bringing in that level of understanding and love, because I feel like it's all about alchemizing the energies. And the more that we kind of see a dark and a light, that we're still tethering ourselves in a limited dimensional experience, because both aspects are a reflection of oneness. And that's how we move into unity consciousness, by no longer separating things and seeing things as you're bad or that's a bad energy that needs to be dealt with. Once we deal with ourselves and we bring ourselves and our frequency into the vibration of love, understanding, and oneness, those things cease to exist. Like in the reality that I live in, there is no outside force that can come and do anything to me, because I am a sovereign being. I'm fully aware and in control of my own being. And even when I see other people who are vibrating at a lower consciousness or a lower level because they're still growing, I don't see that they can have an effect on me, but I do give them understanding. I do give them love and try to give them the tools to have understanding for themselves, because that's when you can start to actually bring change through love and through understanding. So I feel like the best way that people can get involved in being a part of the clearing is to do their research, is to learn, but also to just do the work on within, bringing yourself to a vibration of love and understanding. So that's just what I wanted to add to that. And with regards to what I've been receiving, it's been very interesting, because as we know, that whole show or gathering just triggered so many different memories within me and different layers. And one of the first things that I remember is when I was in 2008, I went to go and study at the Past Life Regression Academy at Gaunt's house down in Taunton. And I remember one of the visions that I had from a past life, one of the very first ones. I was a child, and I remember this figure standing over me with a long beard, and he gave me a wand. And I was like, what's this? And he was like, you have to take over now, because I have to go somewhere. I'm no longer allowed to be here. And I remembered that he was Merlin and I was Merlin's son. And there was a transition of power, a transition of spiritual power, but I never really got the depths of it. So after our video, Merlin started to visit me in my dreams again. And as I said to you, Camelot Moat is not far from my house. So his energy is very much here. And some of the things that he told me, I then had to go and research, and was able to find the research. And some of the things that he told me was that there was a mission. The mission was a carry-on from the Christ mission. And they said that the Christ mission wasn't what we thought it was. There was also a galactic mission that was taking place. And this was about securing the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant is like a powerful force that helps to stabilize this planet, but is also part of what's required to help us to move through the shift at the end of this age. So where we are right now. And he showed me that throughout history, there's always been this fight between the so-called good and the so-called bad, for the Ark of the Covenant. And it was constantly being taken from one side to another, whether it was Solomon and the Hyksos, and then it being taken from there to Hatshepsut. These are all the informations that he gave me. So what he said was that the Christ mission wasn't able to be completed because when they secured the Ark of the Covenant box, it was missing the staff. So you need the rod and the staff in order to bring this, to activate the box. He also showed me that the box is surrounded by certain codes and frequencies that can only be opened by tones and can only be opened by certain beings that hold a certain frequency. And this is all part of the mission to help the planet Earth ascend, that was created back when this planet was created and Tara was destroyed and her electromagnetic field was destroyed. So it's called the Covenant. There's a Covenant of Peliador, but there's also a mission called the Secrets of Amenti, which I didn't fully understand when I was given this name when I was 30. And I always knew I was going to die when I was 30 years old. And really what that was is that I had a contract to live a certain life up until 30 and then bring in my oversoul, which was Amenti. So why I'm saying that is because he started to give me all of this information that let me know that the mission that Christ had wasn't able to be successful. So what happened was, according to what he says, and some information that I've found by a woman called Ashiana Dean as well, who studied it quite prolifically, what happened was, because they weren't able to complete the mission, there is a portal in Tel Amarna, which is basically in Egypt, which is also where Akhenaton held a lot of his initiations and rituals, and held what was called the Halls of Amenti, which is like a Stargate portal. And what I was shown was that the Ark of the Covenant box was put through this portal, and it led to Old Atlantis. And he told me that Old Atlantis is here. This is the Old Atlantis. It was called Nohas, and there was a part called Lohas. So Lohas is Ireland, and Nohas is the landmass that is Wales and England and Scotland. He also showed me that during the Lemurian Holocaust, the last aspect of Lemuria, which is still active on this planet, is Kauai, Hawaii. So those are still stargates that are fragments from the time of Atlantis and Lemuria. And what I was shown was that the Ark of the Covenant box was brought to the UK, was brought to England, and taken to the Isle of Pusey. This is what he was showing me, the Isle of Pusey. And basically the second person after Jesus to bring in the mission of securing the Ark of the Covenant box was Arthur. So basically there was a mission for Arthur to be able to pull out the sword of the stone. Basically there's some codes that connect to the staff that were written on the handle of the Excalibur sword. And so when Arthur would come, he had the certain codes to be able to activate and release that sword, which obviously helped everyone to know that he was the one that had now been chosen to help to protect the Ark of the Covenant box. So then that's when Merlin was brought in to basically look after him and train him. Now, what I was shown was that Merlin had a very compromising energy. He was constantly going between having a battle within about light and dark, between his good self and his bad self. And that was to do with some of the experiences that he had with his mother. This is what I'm shown. So he was always in conflict because he was in service, but also wanted power. And so the Knights Templars came to him for information, because you had the Round Table Knights who were actually part of what was called the Emerald Covenant. So they were here to bring in peace for humanity, to help protect humanity. But they became infiltrated by people like Lancelot and a few other Knights Templars. And so what the Knights Templars did is they were able to get information about Arthur from Merlin that actually compromised Arthur's mission. And that is where Merlin moved from being someone who was actually positively influencing the mission to kind of secure the Ark of the Covenant box to help humanity. He instead sold out and went and basically gave this information to the Templars, which meant that Arthur was not able to complete his mission. And what I was shown is that to secure the box, what they did is they buried it in Cornwall, and there was also an aspect of it in the Isle of Pusey. Now, how this made so much sense to me was because then I started to read The Secrets of Amenti by Ashiana Dean, and she actually goes through the whole timeline of all of this information from the beginning to the end. She talks about the resurgence of these round tables, that the round tables are how the enlightened ones or awakened ones shared information, because it's almost as if they represented different refractions of light. Each one of them held a vibration and frequency, and they came together to bring this information together. And that was the kind of holistic governing service, so to speak. It also tied in a little bit with Joseph of Arimathea and him going to having over to England and setting up his parishes and stuff as well. So what was happening was that Merlin was starting to show me that there were many missions that took place that have been towards helping humanity to make this transition safely. But there were also beings who had been compromised by the Anunnakis, the Dracos, and other people who had infiltrated organizations such as the Knights of the Templar to constantly keep us in this battle between who's going to hold on to the Stargate. Okay, so that was a lot of the information that I was getting. And also what Merlin used to do is he would use, he set up 2 mystery schools, one in England and one actually in Ireland, because Ireland had the most potent energy and frequency of nature, and also the energy of the Emerald Covenant, hence why it's called the Emerald Isle. And the emerald connects to the heart chakra, it connects to the energy that pulls into the universe of love. So the reason why this land is so sacred and so important is because it has been utilized as part of a galactic mission to help preserve knowledge and preserve sacred keys for humanity. However, there's always a conflict on the land, because as much as there is this sacred natural earth energy that is here, this was also the remnants of Atlantis, meaning that it holds that karma as well. And so when we were talking about the, the city of London and why it was such an epicenter of the world, and the Masons and all of these things, that occult knowledge came from Atlantis. And so it was preserved here. So this agenda that we see of different orders and establishments trying to gain control of the planet, they're using Atlantean technology. They're using the remnants of that Atlantean experience of domination and control and suppression in order to continue to use humanity as a slave race, which is what they intended to do. Don't forget the way that Atlantis became destroyed is because there were beings there that had so much knowledge and information that they were competing with each other and started to have wars. They started to have wars and ended up destroying the whole dome protection, the whole ecosystem of Atlantis, and that's what caused it to be destroyed. Another thing is they also started genetically modifying the beings that were here, the original beings, who were the Lemurians, who were able to shapeshift. So as we've moved in our human consciousness, we've gone from being light to being fluid beings, able to change and morph into all different types of things. And then the Atlanteans, they saw that and they weren't able to do those things. So what they did is they started attacking and mutilating the Lemurians. Hence why they started to navigate more towards where America, South America is right now. So this information was coming through just to help us to understand that those are some of the energies that still are at play. And as much as this place is a very powerful place, as long as we allow that energy to dominate it without us understanding the real energy that's here, it's almost as if we're missing the reason why we're on this plane. And our part is as simple as acknowledging the purity of this place and connecting with the purity of this place, literally with the land. So when you go out into nature, just sit and breathe and connect with the land, and it will talk to you. It will give you the codes that you need in order to resettle the vibrations of this planet, of this place. But yeah, Spirit was showing me there's been so much conflict, and that's why those energies are able to play out. But we ourselves are the keys. So every time we ground ourselves into the earth, we connect with the ancient knowledge and history that's here and raise it to the vibration of love, and in a way balance out the negative agenda that is trying to be imposed on us. But the reason why everything is happening here is because this is old Atlantis. So this is the information that was coming through. And as I said, I did check a lot of it. Ashiana Dean was somebody who was seen as crazy when she came up with this information, but actually it makes perfect sense to me, because even I think in 2017, no, it might even be earlier than that. I think it's about 2015, I was guided to go to Glastonbury, I said it before, to clear the waters. And one thing happened when we got there. I was guided to walk into the Chalice Wells. And I just felt like something had taken over me. I was just focused and I just walked. And as I walked, I realized that there were all these groups of people who were basically lined around the whole well, as if we had just come for a galactic meeting of some sort. And I just walked straight to the well. I put my hands in the ground and just started to tone. And this stargate, literal stargate, started to open. And all of the people around me, they started to sing. You could hear, it sounded like fairies, it sounded like pixies, it sounded like all of these different energies, elemental energies coming together. And Spirit showed me that even the Chalice Wells itself is a stargate, a divine feminine stargate and portal. And you can actually send things through that portal to come out in other dimensional realities. And it was just a powerful experience. And to end that particular journey, I remember we decided we wanted to go to get something to eat. And we ended up in a place called Excalibur, the restaurant Excalibur in Glastonbury, and they sat us down on a round table. And as I sat down, right above my head was a picture that had a blue flame on it, and it said Amenti. So it basically confirmed everything that we had done on that journey in terms of rebalancing these dark energies and these light energies and bringing them together. So yeah, my spirit just wanted me to share that, because it kind of helps us to understand that there's so many different dimensions to this land that we're on. It's really not just England, it's not like that. There is so much history. And so when we understand that, and we also see the karma of the actions of those who lived here, we'll understand why these things are happening here and why we are here also to neutralize that energy and raise it to a higher vibration. Because some of us were on Lemuria, some of us were on Atlantis, some of us did good things, some of us did bad things. So we're here to use our ancient technology to now shift and bring everything back into balance, because we created the problem that we're all seeing. So that's why I say that the thing of light and dark and good and evil, we've all been evil, we've all been good. We have both aspects within us. So through understanding, we're able to raise it to a higher vibration, which is oneness, which is polarity, which is the understanding that within is all things. So yes, I just wanted to share that.
Wow, Amenti, you have just given multiple very deep key codes and triggers and codices that are deeply triggering for the individual to move into their infinite sovereignty. And we've got a lovely parallel of keys being delivered through the whole sort of Camelot, Excalibur, Arthur presentation, the Ark of the Covenant, and also over with Tara, the Wizard of Oz, which brings different key codes in. So everything you are talking about, everything that you are presenting, when you look at the codes of those, I've pretty much had the same downloads, but not given in the information in the way that you've been given. The downloads were the presentations of the metaphor of the symbol, and I brought that through, and that's all in my book, Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame. So you have the Emerald Flame, and it's very interesting because I went to Glastonbury while I was writing that book, and I think I was on, like, I don't know, I can't remember, but about 3/4 of the way into the book, and I was on one of the particular chapters talking about Amenti and the energies of Amenti. And as I parked up in Glastonbury, I just thought, I'm going to have a sign, I'm going to get some synchronicity, I just know it. We went straight to the vegan cafe, which is halfway down the street. I sat down on the table with my husband opposite me, and I looked up, and that's when I saw the picture with the blue flame, and it says Amenti. So I don't know if that's the exact same picture. Is that the restaurant? So I had that same. So I had that same. I thought blue flame Amenti. So amazing that that's up on the wall in that. I presume, Jen, you'll know exactly what we're talking about because
Excalibur.
You live there. But for us, if you and I have been shown that picture as a synchronistic sign for our own downloads and our own spiritual work and our own creations, I was writing the book. So there's such a parallel here that, you know, from my perspective, and I'm sure from your perspective, when you're actually living that unique experience, it's just such confirmation of your own truth. And so with me, it's very much about the sort of the matrix and the presentation of the field that's around us. And that brings me back to the question about what to do about releasing that clearing specific to this country and the ancestral line. And that's all in Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame as well. There is a visualization meditation given. And what you would do is you would look at the matrix as a presentation of horizontal line, a vertical line, and you have these diagonal lines which are representative of the ancestral lines, and you place the jewels, the gemstones within those frequencies, within those lines, because they hold the ability to clear. And one of those jeweled gemstones you would use for that clearing is the emerald. So there's a lot of parallel with everything you're saying. And there's a whole chapter in that book about the Ark of the Covenant and the rod and all of that's all in there. So you have delivered those same key codes. I deliver them in a completely different way in that book, but you've delivered the same key codes, which are memory activations for your own awakening. And the whole Wizard of Oz has got the same different codes, but again, there is a lot of awakening within that sort of metaphoric story as well. So Becky, have you any comments to make about everything that's been said, or about that question about the clearing ancestrally for this country, and anything Amenti said, the whole Emerald Flame and the Amenti, the blue flame, the Emerald Stargate? Any sort of comments there?
Right, there was a lot, and I'm not good at keeping these mental notes. I wish I'd had my pen and paper, but so I totally agree. Amenti was talking about how King Arthur was sort of trying to take on the role after the Jesus and Mary Magdalene failed attempt at this. I agree with that. Now I'm just trying to think about, there were so many different things, and like I said, I'm not good at organising it in my mind. So jumping back to the clearing ancestral lines, because I was thinking about that. in our last roundtable podcast that we did, I talked about the kind of the download that I had, where it's the phrase, you know, I love myself, I forgive myself, I heal myself, and I free myself. And I was talking about doing that into the 4 directions. So you stand facing north, which is represents the element of earth and your physical body, and then you turn to the east, which represents the element of air and your mental body. To the south represents the element of fire and your spiritual body, and then to the west, which represents the element of water and your emotional body. But I was thinking, I had been in my mind developing this further, and it is important here, because if you you know, some of us talk about the chakras, the 7 chakras, and we've got more really in our bodies, but an older understanding, if you like, of our bodies is having more like 3 energy centers, and these are in the head and in the heart and in the lower abdomen, and these are energy centers connected with, so the one in our abdomen is connected with our physical body. It's connected with gut instinct. So there's a level of intuition and intelligence connected with that energy center. And if you are sort of thinking about your physical body and that energy center, and you run through the I love myself, I forgive myself, I heal myself, I free myself, move up to the heart chakra, which connects with our emotional energy center, and say those again. I love myself, I forgive myself, I heal myself, I free myself. Again, up to the head chakra, and the same thing. If when you're doing that and you have more time, because you can do that as like a routine, as just honoring yourself and stepping into that personal space where you are, it is a 0 point energy, because you are creating a calm and protective and healed and aligned energy around yourself with all your energy centers. But if you have more time and one can focus on each of those things and say, I love myself, thinking about your physical body, then you might think about, well, what is it that's initially saying, you know, immediately saying, well, I don't love this about myself, I don't love that about myself. The little chatter that's going on and is sort of saying, you know, that's when you can become really tuned in to what is it that you do not love about yourself. Look into that and see where you can direct love to that, and forgive that part, and heal that part, and free those feelings. The same goes the emotional body. What is it that is triggering your emotions that you don't love about your emotions? What are the things that you're hiding? What are the things that you just don't like about yourself from an emotional point of view? And work through that process, and you can heal them. And the same goes for the mental body. So and then of course the spiritual body. But obviously our spiritual body is actually, our spirit is whole, it is perfect, it's connected with source. But you know, that for me is one way of doing that, not only in the here and now, but through your whole ancestral line. Because, you know, the bodies that we are in right now, we have the DNA of our ancestors from all over the world. You know, if someone has been born and bred in England or Ireland or wherever, and they know that they've got that genetic line going back many generations, then they will have that energy stronger for that particular spot. But still, bottom line is that we've all come out of Africa, and we've all come, you know, inhabited all around the world, and we've all got that genetics within us. So we all have the ability, when we're healing ourselves, to heal an element, and you can focus on the ancestral element within that DNA that is within one's own body. So you can focus on that part. Oh God, there was more and I've forgotten. This is a problem with me. I'm not like Amenti or Jen or Tara, where you can just talk really fluently. I've never been able to do that, and I apologize for that.
Becky, that's really helpful. That's really helpful. It's a similar kind of exercise to what I was saying about going into the matrix, putting the gemstones in this sort of directional lines. That's more of a sort of a geometric presentation of of what you're saying, it also links to Jen's what she was saying as well about the sort of the Hawaii, is it Hopono? Yeah. So that everything sort of links up together. I was just thinking, I'm not sure how much time everybody has. I've got a few questions. I was wondering, shall I just read through each question and you can all just choose which one you'd like to respond to, because there's no way we're going to get through them all. So if I read through them all, go round each one of you, and then each one of you can just choose what you'd like to comment on. So the first question is, I looked for the City of London book by Christopher Street, but because we mentioned this in the last round table, but a book by that name doesn't exist. Can you please confirm the name of the book and the author, please? And someone also talking about books. What's the book by, what is the book called Mists of Avalon? What is this about and who wrote it, please? Would you advise that I read this as part of my spiritual journey? So this was something else that we mentioned. You all spoke of salamanders, dragonflies, and other symbolic creatures. Could you discuss the unicorn? And does the unicorn have a specific connection to the United Kingdom? Someone else said, are you sure Glastonbury is the heart chakra? Are there not several heart chakras for the planet? Don't they move around? And why would a heart chakra be on the surface of the planet anyway? Can anyone explain this to me, as I don't understand why a place would be a chakra of the earth? And the other comment is, and I had many people write similar things to this person, everything is so confusing to me at the moment. I'm in such a muddle about what I believe and what I don't believe. I don't know what to believe. I don't know what my morals are and what I even stand for anymore. I'm running my mind around in circles with what I think is the right thing to do for me and my family, for my children and my friends, versus my beliefs and the choices that I want to make. And nothing makes sense to me anymore. I guess I'm overthinking it all, but I'm absolutely exhausted with it. So, Tara, would you like to comment? I know that's a lot, and there's no way we're going to get through all of it, but if each one of us could maybe comment on something to help each individual, or if anyone knows the answer to the questions about the books. So, Tara, got any comments there?
I feel for that lady that's really just spun out, overwhelmed, losing herself, doesn't know what she thinks and feels anymore. And so always come back to breath. And I always recommend people, because when we control our breath, we control our emotions, and we try to control our thoughts. And basically we got to stop the control pattern. Okay, we don't like being controlled externally, so why are we controlling ourselves internally, right? So let it go. Not right? That's how to really make yourself ill. So let go. Be breathed, and imagine yourself like a string on a guitar. You are tuned at a very, very, very high vibration up there on a peg that is connected to the source of unconditional light, high frequency, whatever you want to call it, and all the way down into a very, very base anchored spot, just like on a guitar. And you've got the lowest notes and vibrations there, and the highest vibrations. And this is essentially what you are. You are a strand of DNA, a strand of creation, a string, like Jen was saying of the instrument. Now, if we are bringing our consciousness up, i.e. to our head, to beyond, to things outside of ourselves we don't know, that we can't imagine, that we can't control, that are unseen, we're going to get strung out. We're going to get, highly strung. You see the analogies? Highly strung. We need to, like giving birth, like I've talked about natural birthing on here before. The deep, I can't do it very well at the moment, but the deep, bringing your awareness, your consciousness, and your breath down, not to just your diaphragm, but into your womb, into your sacral area, and down into your base center, down into your perineum, and land, and like literally relax into your bottom. And then allow your breath to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and just get into the channel of your breath, up and down, and bringing yourself with your awareness lower, 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 lower. And you're going to have an incredible experience again and again and again by doing that. So let breath be your teacher. Let breath be your lifeline. Let it be your anchor. Let it root you into your physical body and deeper, deeper into the earth connection. Just breathe, right? Seriously, stop trying to control. We can't think everything. We are going through a consciousness upgrade. So many people's consciousness is just not capable of taking in all these different dimensions and different frequencies and potentials. You can't. So just get really simple, be like a child, come back home to your body and just be breathed and just enjoy the ride. Like really sit back and just let go. I would say,
Tara, would yoga help with understanding that breathing, or is it not really the same?
No, the way that I invite people to breathe is because yoga is fantastic and there's lots of controlled breaths to get specific states of being or specific hypnotic states, all kinds of different things you can use the breath for, because it's essentially who we are. You take away the breath and you don't exist. You're a pile of dust that goes back to the earth, right? It is literally everything that you are. So just allowing the breath, because it unconditionally gives itself into you to create the form that you are and to create life. It literally kisses you into life every single moment that you exist. And I invite people to unconditionally receive the breath the way it's unconditionally given and stop having a very conditional, very controlling relationship with their own lifeline. Right?
So take the masks off. Take the masks
off and breathe, people. Seriously.
Breath, yeah, the breath.
Like get oxygen into the body, get spirit into the body, get out of your head and get down, right? Get close to Mother Earth, like Amenti was saying. This is Mother Earth right here. This is conscious matter right here, but you have to put consciousness in it to realize that it's conscious and to unlock the wisdom and the secrets. I mean, we could go right down there into the secrets, all kinds of stuff, but we'll leave it at that. About unicorns, I personally have seen unicorns, and I many years ago when I was 21, I saw my first one up in the Pyrenees, and people think I was tripping or stoned or something. I really, really wasn't. And unicorns to me are not, you know, they're not pink and fluffy and they don't fart rainbows. Actually, they have, like a horse, they have a heart, and effectively a heart in each hoof and in their main chest. They have 5 hearts. So it's like, for me, it's those 4 directions. It's the number 4 of the rootedness, the anchoredness, of solidity, of structure. But they also, and 4th dimension, if you like, because they exist on the astral plane, right? However, they have the horn from here, which is the overview. It's not the insight of the 3rd eye, it's the overview. It's the higher mind, it's the higher intention. And so you can actually take the unicorn medicine, get grounded and rooted in all 4 directions, and do what Jen was saying or whatever, just 4 directions of yourself, mind, body, spirit, and emotion. Get anchored and use your higher vision to direct where you're going, and use that energy of the unicorn, because unicorns also were Atlantean beings. They hang out with me. I've got my unicorn. I love my unicorn, my spirit unicorn. And in fact, I'm looking at one right now. And these beings.
I have a unicorn tattoo.
Woohoo! I love them. Beautiful. I've got some little unicorns that cling to your wrist, saying you need a little friend. I get sent loads of them. But essentially, unicorns, I think, like you were saying, Amenti, they're a very, very, very ancient part of our land. And of course, you know, for me, down to the Pyrenees and all that area is included. In the north of France, that's all Brittany. It was all included in this whole area. Gives me goose pimples. And there is a deep, deep, deep magic in this earth that is awakening and wants to awaken. And that's part of the reason why people have blocked it out and gone into the 3rd dimensional band, because we didn't have the power and the responsibility to deal with the magic that we had, because a lot of us that were in Atlantis screwed it up, right? We were doing genetic engineering. I've read it in people's souls. I completely agree with you. Genetic modification, genetic engineering on human beings and souls and all kinds of crossbreed. It was just, we messed it up. We are making amends for that now. So it's just bringing consciousness, it's bringing the love again. And actually, isn't it amazing that the unicorn on the what's it called, the royal shield of the lion, which also comes from ancient Egypt as well, and that myth and the whole connection with the star beings and Egypt and the kind of half man half lion thing, well, they weren't men, you know, that was brought over here. That magic came over this side, that came over, you know, that's part of the Christ message that was brought over here, but it was way before then. It was way before then. That magic is in this earth. And so the lion and the unicorn being on the crowns, the royal crest, if you like, and then the chains of the unicorn being free. Did you see that? The unicorn used to be in chains, and the unicorn's chains have been broken, which is that release. It is like that fourth dimensional where we create our own reality, where you can get lost in the hopes and dreams and fears realm, or you can just keep moving through and come into unconditional love and not get stuck in the fear paradigm, and you know, and ride your unicorns and use those 4 directions. Stay grounded, keep your heart on the earth, you know, very much so. Stay close to Gaia. She knows what's going on. Like, strap in, put your seatbelt on. We're going incredibly fast through this universe right now to our home spot where Mother Earth was born. Stay close to the earth. Invite in your unicorns, invite in your pixies and fairies of that 4th dimension, and enjoy. Just ask for the help. And also the book Mists of Avalon is by Marion Zimmer Bradley, and it is a story, but you decide for yourself what's real and what's not, and it's magic.
Thank you. And as unicorns, I personally feel it's not just a United Kingdom connection. The unicorn stands as an energetic right across this planet and beyond, and is there for every single person on this planet. It's not specific to the UK. It might manifest in a different energetic within the different places, but the unicorn is a symbol that we can all connect with. Jen, do you want to respond to any of those questions? Do you want me to read them again as we, can you remember what you, yeah. Right.
So I'd like to respond to the question about Glastonbury and just what I've tuned in. Like, I've never read this. This is just what I have discerned. So if it resonates for you, like, take it on as truth. If it doesn't resonate, then that's really super valid. So what I was shown is that the earth is like a body, and that basically the earth has chakra points, just like the body has chakra points. And I'm not sure who decided that. I believe it was probably our Syrian ancestors around the time of the Mayan calendar that that decided which particular point was going to hold each chakra. But I know that the reason why Glastonbury has got a lot of people see it as the heart chakra is a lot to do with the fact that the red and the white spring meet in Glastonbury, and this is a place that has been traditionally known as the Hieros Gamos. And so, like, in the 13th century, like, that used to have the Avalon priestesses, and then you would come here and you would experience the Hieros Gamos ceremony, the inner alchemical marriage, and this would all be around the spring in Glastonbury. And so, like, what I was shown is that Gaia is like a body, and so each chakra point is representative of a different sacred site on the earth. And crop circles are like acupuncture for Gaia. So when the earth experiences a crop circle, it's just like us getting a bit of acupuncture on our body, and it just stimulates and gets the lymphatic system going. But I think with the crop circles, it's more about clearing the stuck 3D matrix energy and just opening up channels for the higher dimensional frequencies to flow through. That's part of the reason why we have these crop circles. So with Glastonbury, I was shown that, you know, it is like a sort of like a temple space or a holder space for the heart chakra, but it's not fixed. It's definitely not fixed. And I was also shown that at the moment there's a shift going on at the moment, actually. And I think that in certain cycles, especially now because we're in the end of this age and we're going into the golden age, there's going to be like an energetic shift taking place. And so, funnily enough, like I've been like living in Avalon for like 20 years, and I'm a guardian gatekeeper of the tour. And it's a very, very important role of keeping the energy like really, really clear and pristine in Avalon. Like that's been my job of why I've been sort of like commissioned here from my 5D army. They've been like, all right, we're going to get her over to Avalon, and she's going to like, do that work, and she's going to work with the Hieros Gamos. She's going to experience the Hieros Gamos. She's going to like become an actualization of that very frequency of the heart chakra. And but now they're showing me that it's time for me to move, that I must move from Avalon because my service is complete. And they're showing me about this move towards America, and they're sort of showing me that the heart chakra energy is actually going to be moving to the west coast. But I don't see it as leaving Avalon. I see it as like being like duplicated, if you like. So the heart chakra energy is still going to be in Avalon, but it's going to be sort of like templated on the west coast of America. And I think that with certain people that are holding a certain level of consciousness on these particular sacred sites, that is what empowers and activates these sacred sites to come online, if you know what I mean. That's what I was going to say. It is also connected to the Michael and Mary line. Like there's so many places where the Michael and Mary line meet in Glastonbury. I think there's just like so many places where they cross over, which has added to this idea that this is the place of the sacred marriage, the Hieros Gamos, the heart chakra of the planet. Yes. So also these, the chakras are also seen as stargates. So like the energy in Avalon, like the veil is very, very thin in Avalon, as in all of these sacred sites, Uluru, Lake Titicaca, Lake Titicaca, all these sacred sites, they're like stargates. And so a stargate implies that there's quite a lot of interdimensional visitation. There's like portals and stuff like that, where there can be this sort of like traversing from the interdimensional realms. So I think it's really important that we hold that consciousness that these chakra points are notorious for being stargates. And also Glastonbury is very, very much connected with the divine feminine and the empowerment of the divine feminine codes. And it's really, really important that everyone it attracts very, very high level goddesses, priestesses, that they hear the call to come to Avalon to do this really, really sacred work. And I'd just like to let everyone know that the next transmission will be the Magdalene transmission, and we're actually going to be working specifically with the heart chakra, and we're going to be working with the mother codes, like healing the mother codes, and that is going to be on the 22nd of July, and it's going to be really, really powerful. Yeah. And so it's powerful to just even come here etherically and astrally. Like we really, really have permission to visit all these sacred sites and to go and receive those codes that are stored in these sacred sites. And for sure, Avalon is just loaded with the Holy Grail codes, with the Hieros Gamos codes, the inner alchemical marriage codes. And so if you are on the twin flame path and you really, really are calling in your divine partner, like you can actually send your soul to Avalon, you can send your soul to the White Spring, you can come to the tour, you can really, really tap into the energies of these powerful stargates on the earth. And but yeah, I would just like to say that I definitely don't think it's fixed. I think that it's fluid. I think that it's moving, and it's very, very, it's a really intense experience living in one of those stargates.
Thank you, Jen. There's some major Avalonian activation codes delivered there. I agree with everything you said, especially about the crop circles and the acupuncture and the frequency that's being placed within the earth and within all of humanity when the crop circles are manifested. I know Tara has to leave in 5 minutes, and she was just saying in our little chat about the heart chakra moving, and potentially we're manifesting another heart chakra. Do you want to quickly discuss that, Tara, before you say goodbye? I mean, I obviously I'd like to hear from Amenti and Becky about those questions, but if you want to quickly sort of mention that before you have to leave. Oh, you're still muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kind of interrupt any flow of conversation.
No, fine. You've got to go
in front of Rebecca. But as you were talking, Jen, and you were saying about, and I think you've mentioned it before in the last one about the movement or the migration of the heart chakra, because they have moved, and I don't know where the origins are either. But as you were saying that, I was like, you know, I've, like probably many other people, getting strange heart palpitations or like changes of the heartbeat, things happening. And I'm a really healthy person with a really healthy heart, but I've been having strange heart palpitations, and it's over on this side of my chest, so over on the right hand side. So let's, like, our physical heart is here on the left, right in here. I've been getting these very strange sensations and feelings here for quite a few months now. And yes, we have two heart chakras. We have the higher heart here, which is all about purpose and the beliefs we've taken to our heart and our passion. And we also have the central heart here of unconditional love, divine union of masculine and feminine, the infinite, the source. And we also have a third area, which is the higher solar plexus, or the divine will, which is a third aspect of the heart, the lower heart, if you like, heart in action, love in action center. So there are those three chakras in the body. But I'm curious, does anybody else get a sensation that, is it possible that we as human beings, as we're developing and as we're transforming and metamorphosizing, is it possible that we would have two hearts? And I don't know what anybody else feels, and maybe this is not something for discussion right now, but since the heart ear is on the divine feminine, or the feminine side of the left, and then I'm experiencing this new opening onto the right hand side in the masculine, the patriarchy side, I don't know, that I'm just finding that interesting. And when Jen said about the earth being the body and the chakras of the body, completely agree. So I don't know, I'm just going to leave that open.
Well, as we're moving into new earth, everything is reconfiguring, and that will include us. But I mean, we could be talking hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years into the future, but we configure our DNA reconstruction in alignment with the construction of the planet and vice versa. So if we've got heart chakra and all chakra shiftings and movings within the energetic system of the planet, we're going to have a match within our own bodies. So who knows what we will look like in.
If we have the heart chakra here of source, and we have a heart, and it's like, I don't know, maybe. We'll see.
Thank you, Tara. That's really interesting. And you know, if you have to go off, that's fine. So say goodbye to you. I know, Becky, you have to go too. Do you want to speak next, as you've got to go as well?
Yes, I do have to go in a minute. So thank you. I was just thinking, well, Doctor Who had two hearts, didn't he? He's a time traveller. So.
I didn't know that.
I remember what it was, one of the things that I wanted to say after Amenti spoke, because Amenti was talking about absolutely tying in what's happening in the past has repercussion and an impact on what's happening now. It is just because, you know, we are still part of the past. We're still part of the huge unfolding process. What happened a mere 2,000 years ago still has an impact now, and then again in the Arthurian times, and going way back, Sumerian, and way back, you know, for the last 200,000 years, this energy and the play out of these energies, they're coming to a culmination. But this is not just a new thing that's been happening in the last 10, 15, 50 years or 2,000 years. It really is. What we're experiencing now is absolutely part and parcel of what our ancestors have been part of, and what us as our souls in past lives have been involved in, which is one of the reasons why we are here now, because there is an element of a culmination point and energy. So I just wanted to say that, because that was another thing that I was remembering. like Tara, I totally sympathise with the lady who was feeling really confused. And I know I certainly do. I go through phases, and then for me, I find that if I have a still moment, take myself off into this room, do some meditation, and just connect with my heart, because I know that when I'm connected to my heart, and it's using my breath, it's all, as Tara said, always focusing on the breath. And I love it when she went deep down, because, and the sort of primordial sigh, because that is nothing about going down through vibration. You're not lowering your vibration, you're just grounding your energy to a point where you are not, you're sort of below the ocean, you're not on the surface of the ocean being bobbed about by, you know, everything that's happening on the surface. You're deep down in the ocean where you're not being affected by the winds and so on. So if you're focusing on the heart and on the breath, then you're not being affected. Your mind stops succumbing to the chatter and all the confusion and the fears. And we are living in a time where there is so much input. People are having thoughts on what's going on. There's so much going on, and it is affecting us in brand new ways. So it's a natural response. I just wanted to say that it's a natural response.
Yeah, I would agree, Becky. I think that there's so many people feeling like that, and I think it's normal. And it's also important to know that this is deliberate. You know, we are under a attempted planetary takeover and an attack on the people. Nothing to be scared of. That's why we're gathering. There are ways to deal with this, ways to deflect this, ways to move into safety. But you are deliberately being pushed into this state of confusion from one perspective. And yet from another point of view, there's a spiritual awakening going on, and confusion often precedes the spiritual awakening. Jen, I know you've got to go as well. Did you want to say any more before you leave?
No, yeah, it's been absolutely amazing, and I really, really hope that everyone has got a lot out of it. And I feel that we've been like sharing and dropping so many powerful codes, and that is our job. Our job is just to trigger and to activate your own knowing and your own deep gnosis. And gone are the time for like teachers and leaders. It's just that all we can do is just be ourselves, and hopefully we can inspire you to go on that quest and to find your God self, you know. And I think that we've done a really, really wonderful job, and I'm very, very honoured to be part of this alchemy, and I look forward to very, very much so to gathering with us all again.
Thank you, Jen. Yes, that is fantastic, and we hope that maybe we'll all meet up with you in person soon in the hot shop.
We can do a video if we all meet in person.
Actually, yes, we should. If we do actually get together
That's amazing.
Person. Thank you, Jen. So if you have to go off, bye-bye. Thank you for joining us today. You've been a valuable asset with all of your knowledge and information and codes that you've been delivering, as has everyone. But Amenti, is there anything you'd like to say regarding any of those questions that I brought forward? Is there anything you'd like to specifically ask about? And, you know, do either of you remaining, do you know the answer about the other book at all for the person?
No, me.
You do? Okay.
I do.
Go on then.
Yeah. So the book, the author is called Christopher Street, and the book I actually combined two of his book titles names together. So the first one is called London's Ley Lines, and then the second book is called City of Revelation. All right, and that was the book that I was speaking about. It's a very in-depth book, but it is a very good book. The second thing I'll talk about is how the energy on the planet moves in terms of the energy of the chakras of the planet. The planet has tectonic plates, and these tectonic plates are like planetary shields that are vortexes and vortices of energy. So as with everything, it moves, right? And it moves and anchors itself in energy will anchor itself on a certain energy plate in order to amplify that energy in that space. So yes, the chakras do move because the planet moves, and as her vibration shifts, she shifts her energy into different spaces. So for a very long time, the heart chakra was in Glastonbury. At the moment, it's transitioning because the heart of the planet is transitioning. The third eye of the planet as well, and the throat chakra in Egypt also transitioning. So as we go through this shift, the energy centers move, because basically how it works is that different tectonic plates have different energy codes, and so they will amplify when certain energies are needed, and they will decrease in energy when certain energies need to be polarized on the planet. So just to confirm, yes, it does move. And it's also connected to the dragon lines and the ley lines of the planet, which bring in both electricity and magnetism. So when they come together, that's what creates the movement and the polarity and the amplification of energies in certain centers on the planet. So that was also what I wanted to say. There was something else I wrote down that I wanted to say quickly. Oh, the heart palpitations. So I started to get those heart palpitations 2 years ago. And when I asked Spirit what it was, Spirit said that our heart is directly connected to the planet. So when we see the Schumann resonance, that shift in that energy is also connected to our heart. And our heart has a bigger electromagnetic field than the brain. So what's happening is we're literally being recalibrated to the Earth's vibrational frequency. So when we have those heart palpitations, it's literally like we're getting resets and codes so that we can align our frequency with that of the planet as she's shifting. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share on that.
Oh, that's really great information. So I'm just having a quick look at this document again. We've spoken about the unicorns, the books, the heart chakra. Yeah, it looks though we've looked at all of those topics. So that's fantastic. Wow, that's a lot of work covered. So thank you. I know that Tara and Becky have left us, but I just want to thank you all for joining me today for this UK Goddess Roundtable. Now, I was thinking our last Goddess Roundtable, we called it the Magdalene Flame after something that you said, Jen. Shall we call this one the Blue Flame of Amenti? Or the Emerald Flame? I mean, what do you think? Because we had the Magdalene Flame last time. We've had this Amenti Flame, Blue Flame, connected to all of the Camelot and Excalibur codes and the Emerald Flame as well. What do you think?
I was thinking like Ark of the Covenant. I was thinking, and Camelot, that might be good, and maybe the Blue Flame as well. But definitely that sort of like Arthurian connection I was feeling.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, like you always have amazing titles, Magenta. You will channel the perfect one.
Okay, well, I can discuss that with you in the chat about that anyway. So I'd just like to say thank you again, and to say goodbye to everyone who's been watching. And I really hope that this roundtable has been helpful for all of our viewers. And
thank you for hosting us, Magenta. We love you.
Oh, thank you, and I will speak to you girls in the chat room. And lots of love to everyone. Bye. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.